random junk through the archives.
Now tell me about Bad Guy and Richard II in New York as works. What are they gaining by this process, and what did you not want to be filtered out in these works? I mean, why are they so important?
Well, what's important is that I had written a book. I do a work journal when I'm working on a production. And I find this is a very, very interesting way, not only of communicating to the world the nuts and bolts of how you put a piece of theatre together, and very important for young people, for students, for amateurs, for everybody. And I did this with Hamlet. They published that, my publishers, but decided against Richard II. Well,
for what reason?
Well, the reason given was that I mentioned too many diners in New York, which of course is the backbone of New York.
Yeah.
So I didn't talk about the diners. I just said, now I'm writing in Kinder's Deli, or now I'm writing in Cat. Yeah. So she seemed to find this a little bit, well, we had too many diners, something so puerile and so stupid as that. But the book itself, to direct Shakespeare in New York, it's so fascinating, particularly Richard II. It's one of the most lyrical, one of the most beautiful and most heart-rending plays about the downfall of a man who failed, not only failed, but cheated on his society as Richard II did. And to set this very beautiful play in New York, in the turbulence and the intensity and the abrasiveness of that city, it's quite a fascinating subject. So I directed the play in New York at the Public Theatre, quite a major and respected theatre, and the play was reviewed, and it had 5-star reviews. It was the most celebrated production at that time in New York. So I was quite proud of it, so I wrote this journal. Unfortunately, it just didn't seem to kind of raise, the interest of the publisher. So I thought, this unique experience is just going to sit in my drawer. So when I heard about Kindle, I thought maybe this is the way I'll go. And so that is my work at, in a way, my best, my highest, my most fulfilled is to direct Shakespeare, and particularly in New York. It was a fascinating experience, and so I wanted to put this out. With Bad Guy, this is the opposite of the spectrum. I've gone from really, delirious glory of working in the wonderful culture, the wonderful language of Shakespeare in New York, to being a bad guy in a Hollywood movie. And that's really terrible. Although I wasn't American, but I was Russian. Yeah. So I was playing, now in America, in Hollywood movies, and I like doing movies, I don't disrespect them, but sometimes the conditions are quite appalling. They don't have characters. They have your bad guy or your good guy. And because I have very short hair, I'm normally cast as the bad guy, you see? And I can be quite intense. And they wanted if somebody could do very good Russian accents, so I play the Russian, And this was one of the most savage, appalling, disgusting, mind-numbing experiences of my life. But if you keep a journal, it helps. So every night I would return to my digs and write it out and write the pain of it, the horror of it, the appalling director and the producer, absolutely appalling. Eventually, we got through it. I can't even mention the film because this producer is very litigious, and I'm sure he will sue me. But at the end of the film went out. It was, and I knew it would be panned, and it was. And then they give out little cards to the audience to say, what did you think of the film? They say, well, the leading lady, she was all right, nothing special. But the bad guy, why have a Russian? Because now, we're not in Cold War with Russia. It's old-fashioned. They're always the same Russian. So they said to me, the producer said, he wants you to kind of post-sync it, dub it into English. I said, but my performance, the mannerisms, everything, the gesture, the body language is Russian. If I do it in English, it will sound so ridiculous. So we had a little bit of a battle. Yep. Eventually, I did it in English. And even then, the further reviews said, well, one of the better performances was Berkoff. This was unbelievable. So that was Bad Guy, and it was such a savage thing. I mean, sometimes, unlike yourself, Hugh, you retain your dignity continuously, but actors can be kings one night and total beggars another. And so we live between the two. So these two books explore both sides of the fence, so to speak.
We wish you well with them in the self-publishing atmosphere.
Well,
thank you very much.
Hugh Edwards, thank you so much for having me on.
Nice to have you on, Stephen, and thanks very much for coming in.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much indeed. Stephen Berkoff there. I didn't really need to ask any questions, did I?